The second Cowboys report of the day is made possible by Roan. We'll tell you all about them later on in today's show, in case you're just now tuning in for the first time. They've been an awesome long-time sponsor. 20% off when you go to roan.com/chatsports and use code chatsports. Before we get into some injury news and latest on one Dalvin Cook, we are in a like battle this week against our rivals Steelers Talk. We have the early lead because we do more videos than they do because we're cooler. But we want to make sure we bury them throughout the week. So like the video, and you should like every video here on the Cowboys Report. Let's begin with what we did a short on earlier today. That is the Brandin Cooks injury. He is with an infection after a knee procedure. Now, I think I fell victim to this too, so that's on me as well. When I saw knee procedure, I went, oh, he had like scope or something and an infection happened? Well, no. He actually had injections to his right knee. To avoid, I think, a potential like meniscus or scope or something along those lines. So it wasn't a surgery, it was an injection. He will not play this week against the Pittsburgh Steelers. That has already been declared out. He's out. He's not going to go. And this is a pretty unusual, wild, rare, and frankly dangerous situation. It's an infection. You don't like messing around with infections in your body, especially after a procedure. That's bad. I'm not saying it's nearly as bad as having Alex Smith. That's having Alex Smith. That's why his recovery was so terrible. He had multiple infections that were just borderline killed him, frankly. So you're not going to have Brandin Cooks this week. Now, Clarence Hill's reported that Cooks told him he thinks he'll be good to go after a week. Jane Slater says he should feel good in 1 to 3 weeks. So we'll see how much time he really ends up missing. This is a little bit more complicated, I think more unclear of like actual timelines, recoveries, like how you're feeling, etc., as opposed to like, I sprained his ankle. Like, well, it's an infection. So how that heals is a little bit different for everything. So we'll see on that front. Jane Slater does say the Cowboys knew that was going to happen, that Cooks was going to stay in New York, get the injection, then come back. It's just bad timing. Look, Cooks had not been playing very well, or at least he wasn't producing very well. I still have many issues with how this team utilizes its playmakers. But I think you had like actual pure receivers. Obviously, other guys are proven NFL players on returns like Devontae Turpin. I think Brandin Cooks had kind of become more of a wide receiver 3. And that's some of the offense's fault, the coaching staff's fault, some decline, whatever buckets we want to allocate the percentages to. He wasn't playing like a true wide receiver 2. But now you got Tolbert, I think, as a wide receiver 3. And question marks for a team that kind of was already lacking another proven dynamic playmaker beyond CeeDee Lamb and Jake Ferguson at times, by the way. So what is your concern level over the Brandin Cooks injury? I feel better about it now than I did like when it first happened, when the infection part scared me, frankly. But I want to hear from you guys. Scale your concern level 1 to 10 at the pinned comment of today's video. Go vote. The ad comes here on YouTube. Look, this hurts for the Cowboys. And it's not because he was playing at some unbelievable level. He's playing like a top 3 receiver. He was on pace for 1,000 yards. None of that stuff is true. But it does hurt because he was a proven NFL player. And yes, I hated all of the hitches and comeback routes. Thought that was stupid and dumb and overused by this Cowboys coaching staff. But it's not like he was a terrible football player. Disappointing, sure. But he was still, I think, pretty clearly your second best wide receiver. The reason why I wanted change was not to not have Cooks out there. It was to use him differently. Dallas is light on playmakers. I love CeeDee Lamb. Jake Ferguson is a good NFL tight end. He can get you 700 or 800 yards a season, but he's not Travis Kelce in his prime. He's not George Kittle in his prime. That's fine. You don't need him to be. But you need more from Brandin Cooks and or Jalen Tolbert and or your other receivers. You were light on playmakers before you lost Cooks for at least one game, maybe more. So losing him, I think, unequivocally is a negative. Now, if it's a short-term injury, look, I'm kind of at the point where you got to get to the bye and survive and figure it out from there. There are some chances for guys to step up in his absence. We'll break those players down here in just a second. But first, today's show is made possible by Roan. The mail closet was due for a radical reinvention, and Roan has stepped up to the challenge. The Commuter Collection is the most comfortable, breathable, and truly versatile set of products known to man. They have products for every occasion. We're talking pants, dress shirts, quarter zips, polos like the one I'm wearing today, blazers, and a whole lot more. Their signature 4-way stretch fabric is breathable, flexible, and works everywhere from your commute to work to golf to drinks, 19th hole, whatever. Roan has you covered. The Commuter Collection gets you through your workday and right into whatever comes next. So head to roan.com/chatsports and use code CHATSPORTS. Save 20% off your entire order. That's 20% off your entire order when you head to RHONE.com/chatsports and use that code CHATSPORTS. Find your corner office comfort and upgrade your closet with Roan. The link and the promo code will be in the comments section and the description of today's show. Now, when it comes to replacing Cook, at least short term, top guy is Jalen Tolbert, who production-wise has already eclipsed him. He's got more receiving yards on the season than Brandin Cooks. I like him in some of those more contested catch stuff than I do Cooks. I would kind of put Turpin more in that mold of if you're going to do a bunch of comeback routes, Tolbert probably makes more sense than Cooks there. Now, I think part of the reason why Dallas has not deployed Kevontae Turpin more frequently is they didn't want two 5'9", 5'10" guys out there. I think with Cooks out, I would give Turpin more run. I don't know if he's ever going to be more than like a Tavon Austin type of more gadgety-based receiver. I'd like to get him more involved. He's got speed. He made some good plays in that late Ravens comeback. This is your chance to use more of Kevontae Turpin. Not really sure what this coaching staff is waiting for. I kind of don't want to see that much more of Jalen Brooks. Before the Cooks would be like, yeah, let's dial back the Brooks snaps anyway and not have as many personnel groupings and let's just dial it back a little bit to hopefully boost everything else as a result. He's a blocker, but he also has missed some blocks. Like I hope if he gets more snaps than Turpin, kind of feel like Dallas is making a mistake. I do think there is a good chance we'll see Ryan Flournoy activated now. I like his effort. I like his physical talent there. I would like to see Flournoy get a chance. I wanted to see him get a chance over Jalen Brooks too. Great time to do it against the Pittsburgh Steelers. I also wouldn't be that shocked if they made a practice squad call-up. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. We'll talk about some other injuries that are kind of tied into this in a second here. But you have Jalen Cropper and you have Kelvin Harmon. If it is a multi-week injury for Cooks, keep an eye on both those guys as short-term fill-ins. If it ends up being more than a short-term injury, got to consider adding a wide receiver. So will the Cowboys go down that path? Will they look to add another wideout? Y for yes, N for no in the comment section of today's show. Now, we do have the initial Cowboys injury report. Bad news on Brandin Cooks. Obviously did not participate today, and obviously Micah Parsons was not going to go anyway. I think pretty good news on Marquise Bell and Kalen Carson. Bell was a full participant at practice today with his ankle injury. That bodes really well for him being able to play. I think he is. It's early in the week. It's not a tag anymore, but he's probable. You practice on Wednesday, you're normally good to go. Also sounds like Kalen Carson will be available. Limited on Wednesday. If you're at least limited or upgraded to full on Thursday, normally means you're able to go. So very promising updates there on the secondary for Marquise Bell and for Kalen Carson. Now, for some of you, not a promising development on Dalvin Cook. Jerry Jones says Cook is not likely to be called up from the practice squad this week. Cook was also, by the way, not at practice on Wednesday, and it will not calm any potential conspiracy theories, but Nick Harris, the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, reports that Dalvin Cook was sick today. Hugh, you're sick of this team jokes, if that's the route you want to go there. As it relates to why he's not going to play this week, I think there are multiple things that could be at play and could be true at once potentially as well. It's not necessarily, all or nothing. I think there is some, 70%, 25%, et cetera, 5% of this on why Dalvin Cook hasn't played yet. We'll break those down in a second, but you guys can be the GM / the coach. Would you give Dalvin Cook a chance? A for yes, B for no. Let me know in the comments of today's video. Number one answer, this is maybe the simplest answer. The Cowboys might need other call-ups from the practice squad. With other concerns they have on their roster in that situation room, they might have other things they have to focus on instead of calling up in the back. I assume they're going to use that last call-up this week on Carl Lawson, the defensive end. You get two. That could be Amani Oruwariye. Maybe even if you deactivate Andrew Booth and or if Kalen Carson's injured. Or I think he's going to be back, but worth mentioning. They've called up linebackers before. They could call up Darius Harris. Special teams, which also fits the Nick Vigil, Darius Harris thing, although Vigil's out of call-ups. If Cooks is out, is going to be out, and you don't want to play Flournoy or Brooks, got to call up a receiver. Those things might be more valuable right now from the Cowboys coaching staff mindset than another member of the backfield. We will have more Cowboys videos for you each and every single day. We are getting closer to 197,000. I bet we will get there today as long as you guys subscribe. Hit that sub button so you don't miss out. Option number 2, which you might not like, Cowboys like their guys. They like having Ezekiel Elliott and Deuce Vaughn in a 5 snaps a game rotation, and Rico Dowdle being more of the outside runner. The running back room is really kind of changed over the past week. It was Zeke to begin the year, and now it's very much been more in favor of Rico Dowdle. Hunter Lipke's got a ton of playing time as well. Mike McCarthy keeps saying the Cowboys like their guys, and they got to get more chances to play. Can't do that if you bring up Dalvin Cook. Number 3, this is a stubborn football team, from GM and ownership to head coach, etc. I don't think the Cowboys want to change their scheme. Mike McCarthy himself said, Dalvin Cook is an outside zone runner. They have not done a lot of outside zone. They haven't called much of it. It's not their. It's not. They like to do inside/tight zone, which I hate with a passion. Zeke Elliott doesn't fit the outside zone. Dalvin Cook doesn't fit that inside zone play calls. Dowdle, I think, is probably better outside, but still, I don't know if they want to change that scheme up. And if that's the case, that doesn't fit Dalvin Cook very well. We also need to acknowledge this as a possibility. And it requires you to trust the coaching staff is right, which maybe they are. Maybe they aren't in this case. They get to see him every day at practice. In theory, nobody knows better if Dalvin Cook can help you, if he can be better than what you have on this roster than the Cowboys coaching staff. And if they keep saying, we're not going to call him up, assuming it's not a Jerry Jones-led thing, well, that would mean he's just not good anymore. And that was a concern when you signed him. I made that point last year, even. Have to acknowledge that as a possibility.